So now you are retired, but what? You still travel with the tour as a commentator?
Yeah, I'm an analyst for our show that is on Versus, and then also on NBC. And I do about half of the Built Ford Tough Series events, so it keeps me busy.
So you know your stuff. So when it comes to PBR, especially for people who have never been to an event like this, what would you say to someone who is a first time going?
Well, the good thing about it is the rules are pretty easy to follow. It's not that hard to understand, and it's guaranteed to be exciting. It's all you're going to see is really good bulls and really good riders, and it's just bull riding. So you go, it's going to be a 2.5 hour show of just you're either going to you're going to be thrilled one way or another, and it's like most professional sports. And until you see it live, you haven't really seen it. It takes being there and seeing it in person to see how big and powerful and dangerous and really to have an understanding of what goes into it.
Do a lot of guys get injured in the events, or no, not so much? Because, see, I'm always afraid of watching and seeing someone get really hurt really badly.
Yeah, it's not a dangerous sport. It's the dangerous sport.
Yeah.
And, that's part of it. I think that's part of the challenge is not only, athletically speaking, is it really hard to do physically, but, you couple in the fact that it is the most dangerous sport, and that makes it, 10 times the challenge of what it would be if it wasn't dangerous.
So I would take it that that's got to be the lure for the bull rider, because, unless you're the elite, like, you were, does a bull rider make that much, win that much money from event to event, or is it just that incredible adrenaline rush?
Well, it's a big time adrenaline rush, and it's, I think that's the lure of why guys do it, and I also think that's the lure of it of why people watch guys do it. The PBR is changing it to where now, our world champion last year made $1.6 million in the arena, so it's getting better. But it's just like anything, it's the American dream. It's still a very competitive world, and you still got to be the best.
Yeah. How many guys? How many guys are there that tour and that we'll be seeing at the event?
You'll see 40 guys.
And everybody has to ride the bulls.
Yep, everybody gets on the bull, and then the top 10 will get on another bull. They have a championship round, so you get to see all the guys go, and then you get to see the top guys go again, and then the guy with the highest score and on an aggregate of the two rides is the winner.
It always amazes me too how much walking into an arena that you can see, a concert or a basketball game being played or whatever, and then all of a sudden it is turned into, a rodeo area. It's amazing to me how you're able to do that.
Yeah, and they do it, sometimes, I've rode in venues where they'll play, they might be playing hockey the night before, we're bucking bulls the next night, and then they might be playing basketball the night after that.
I got to imagine that there is, an incredible amount of stuff that then goes from location to location, not just the animals, but an incredible amount of stuff, an incredible amount of time and staff that is required to do that.
Yeah, it's a big show, and what's nice about like the event in Jacksonville is you're seeing the up and coming stars of the PBR. You're seeing after every fifth Built Ford Tough Series event, the bottom guys get dropped off the tour, and the top guys out of the touring pro division are brought up onto the televised tour. So that's how we're assured to keep. Make sure we've got the very best guys in the world always coming up to the Built Ford Tough Series.
Gotcha. So now, if I'm going, and I'm kind of a novice, what are some of the things that you would say for me to look for to make it a little more enjoyable or interesting to me?
Well, I mean, the first rule is you got to stay on for 8 seconds to get scored. And so if a guy doesn't make an 8-second ride, then it doesn't matter if you ride 7.5 seconds or 1 second. It's a zero.
Oh, wow.
Once you're able to make it 8 seconds, then it's a judged. Then it's judged. 50 points are for the rider and 50 points are for the bull. So the bull, how he comes into the equation is almost like in diving, he would be the difficulty of the dive, or in gymnastics, the difficulty factor in the different tricks that you're doing. So, as a rider, you want a bull that is very good. You want the best bull that you can get, so that he's getting as much of his 50 points as he can get.
Gotcha. All right. Now, have you been able to convince any of your any other former or current rodeo stars to go and be on Dancing with the Stars and follow in your footsteps? Like
we'll have to see what the future holds. It's definitely it's definitely tough, and it's funny. That's one of the number one shows in the country, and nobody's ever been on the show that has ever said it's easy, and people still have a hard time believing that it really is hard. But I can vouch that it's very hard. You're trying to learn a craft that people have spent lifetimes to learn and practicing every day, and they're trying to take us through the paces in a matter of weeks, and you definitely have anybody that goes on that show has their work cut out for them. That's what makes it a great show, is nobody can mail it in.
Now, which one? I know I asked you what you thought was more scary, driving on the ice or riding on a bull. What was more scary for you, riding on a bull or getting, dancing that first dance on live TV in front of all of those people for the first time?
It was pretty tough. And, as a rider, you compete in front of crowds, 20,000 people every time you compete. So, and on television. So, I thought that I would be better prepared for it than I was, but I think the difference is you're competing in front of a lot of people and on live television. But the difference is I spent my life doing, riding is something I was comfortable with, and I kind of knew my way around it. Whenever you get into that new world and you're trying to go do it, I'll tell you, that first time, I couldn't even hear the music. I just had a ringing in my ears, and I was wondering how the hell I got there.
Well, you did a good job. I'll tell you, you were a very improved dancer from when you started to when you finally were eliminated from the show. You really, really improved. But
well, thanks.
I got to hand it to you. I don't know how anybody does it. I would be scared out of my mind, and I wouldn't be able to remember one step.
Yeah, it's tough. And I tried. I dedicated myself to it, and I gave it all my effort, and it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
At any point, it never did get any easier either.
Yeah, and heck, your wife didn't even make it on the very first one. She got injured.
Yeah, it's brutal, and like I said, people laugh, but they've had some of the toughest athletes in the world on that show,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and all of them will tell you the same thing. It's very, very tough. There was a lot of mornings throughout the show that I'd get out of bed and feel like I was an 80-year-old man.
I bet. You were probably thinking, I'm going to go back to bull riding before I go dance anymore. Well,
yeah, and that's the other thing is you think you're going to be there a week, and then the next thing you know, you're there 4 months.
Right. You're like, wait a minute, I wanted to be voted off after the first week. What am I doing? Well, on a personal note, congratulations, you and Jewel expecting a baby, and you're expecting a boy this summer?
Yep, we're very excited. July 6th, and that's something we're thrilled about. We've been trying to get pregnant since we got married in August of '08, so we feel very blessed and very excited to be adding a little boy to our family.
And how's Jewel doing? Is she doing well?
Yeah, she's doing really well. She's been spending a lot of time at the ranch. She's working on another album right now. She's in the process of writing it right now, and that's when she's happy, is when she's doing her craft. So she hasn't been too sick or anything. So
Oh, good.
everything seems like it's rolling along pretty good.